And here we are in the mothership of all knowledge. I want to welcome you for one more masterclass of VJ University. Today I have the help of a pointer to highlight some of the information I'm going to share with you. Because of that, I would like you to have your telephone or a notepad where you can take notes for research later. I am sure this will help your studies into full dome, art, technology much better. So, I think we are ready to start the class. Today, we are going to talk about dome history. This is the part one of a three-part masterclass that I am sure you're going to enjoy it a lot. Today, we are going to talk about what happened in the dome world from the 1920s to the 50s. Technological innovations, art creations, and innovations in general, and I am sure some of the names will surprise you. And as I used to call it, this is just the beginning. So, just 1 second. I think we have too many people in this room. I think we need to move to another room. It's okay, you don't need to do anything. I'll do everything on this side. Okay? Are you ready? We're gonna move in 3, 2, 1. Here we are. I think that's better. I am also here, and for the next few minutes, you will follow the pointer for the keynotes, and you will also follow my voice, and sometimes I will just show up to reinforce some of the arguments. So I think everything is ready to start. Let's go. What better way to start rather than the name? Full dome. I am sure a lot of you don't know what it is, but I am also sure that in a few weeks after this masterclass, you will know a lot about full dome. And yes, this is just a name. There are others like planetariums, like dome cinema, immersive cinema, surround video, 360 cinema, Omnimax, hemispheric projection, digital domes. And you know what? The name does not really matter. You know why? Because we are not the only ones. And this has a reason. Because why domes? We are under the influence of vision. We are under the influence of vision. And many cultures behind us brought this to us. Let's watch some of them. The Buddhist stupas have domes. The synagogues have domes. Cathedrals have domes. Mosques have domes. The Taj Mahal has a dome. Even the terrible have domes, because we are under the influence of vision. And why? Why domes? Because we are under the influence of vision. We are surrounded. And these are places for ritual, indoctrination, and transcendence. It broadens the perspective intellectually, ethically, and aesthetically. I like to think about that for a little bit. This dome, it's my favorite dome around the world. It's in Valencia, Spain. If you look at it, this is water, and this mechanism here actually opens. And when it opens, we can see this, the perfect eye with a reflection on the bottom and the projected dome inside here, that with a reflection gives it a beautiful construction of an eye. And yes, I think, and I am also sure, that we are the lucky generation that are putting pixels in the dome. And yes, this is us, you and me. Somehow we carry a lot on our shoulders from our ancestors in this dome world. So let's learn about them, who they were, because then I think it will be easier to know about the future. Let's see. The first projection planetarium was constructed at the Zeiss Jena factory in Germany, and I have a picture. This is it, a beautiful structure built in 1923 by Oskar von Müller of the Deutsche Museum, has commissioned the Carl Zeiss Works to design a mechanism that projects an image of celestial bodies onto a dome. This was achieved by Walter Bauersfeld, and the invention became known as the planetarium when it was debuted in 1923. So if you are into structures, geodesic structures, you should look for research purposes on this name, Oskar von Müller and Walter Bauersfeld. They were crucial on the construction of domes and what later became really popular in many of the exhibitions that we are going to see. The modern planetariums were born in the 1920s, and amazingly, in a few years later, Zeiss had already constructed a dozen planetariums in Germany, also in Vienna, Rome, Moscow, and Sweden. The planetariums began to appear in main cities of the world. Most of the shows were limited to being simple classes or conferences dictated by an astronomer. Like in the image here, you can see the astronomer with a pointer pointing at the night sky, and the optomechanical structure that projects the night sky onto the structure of the dome. A little bit like I'm doing here somehow, because I am also here with a pointer explaining and tell you a story. Unfortunately, not on the dome, for obvious reasons. The popularity quickly spread, and in 1929 there were 15 in Germany, 2 in Italy, 1 in Russia, and another one in Austria. This is a picture of the Zeiss dome in Jena, which is still operating to the date today. This is the longest running operating dome in the world. I highly recommend you to go there to the Full Dome Festival Jena to attend the festival once a year to understand about the history of the beginnings. And in the USA, the first was in Chicago, and also the first in the Western Hemisphere. Still there today, still operating today, and I also recommend a visit in a beautiful siting next to a river. Also, so you can understand that not only the planetariums and the science industry were looking at domes, I show you this example of the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum. The proposed built planetarium, this was the 5th open in the United States and was also the first with a star projector built in the country. So this was part of a museum of Egyptian art, and for a while the biggest in the US. So as you can tell, right in the beginning, the dome were used not only for science, but also next to the museum world. And also, very important, in 1935, I would like you to share this example with you, and absolutely important for your research. The Pygmalion spectacles inspired a wave of discoveries until today. Many people attempted to create virtual worlds independently and simultaneously. This was probably the first comprehensive, specific fictional model for virtual reality. It used a pair of goggles with two images, and not only that. Spectacularly, there were also smell, touch, taste, so people could experience virtual senses. I think this is an amazing research into immersion, and you should definitely look at it. Next, we are going to talk about a technology innovation that I think is pretty cool. In 1939, in the New York's World Fair, I am sure you can remember the Viewmaster. Do you remember those goggles that you could look up with some cards? Wait a minute, I'll show you a photo. Do you remember those? That you could see 3D? Probably saw it in your research somewhere. But again, the look from the technology, trying to look for the advances in the art at the same time. I think it's brilliant, and it's worth mentioning if you want to research the world of domes, immersion, and 3D. Also, in the 1939 New York World's Fair, it happened the Perisphere. It was a tremendous sphere, 54 meters in diameter. The Perisphere housed a diorama by Henry Dreyfus, and you should also look for research proposals of what is a diorama and who Henry Dreyfus was. If we look at inside the sphere, it's pretty amazing. It is a floating sphere. It was the majestic, the most important structure of the New York World's Fair. And as you can tell inside, oh, wait a minute, I have a magnifier. And you can tell that inside we had the movie theater, the movie murals. We could have people around here, all around the structure. And I have an artistic impression of one artist that had created this a few years ago. Let's watch it. It was a floating sphere, fantastic town of the future, floating bubble, amazing structure being built, a photo of the final work, and this is the artistic impression. Now we are going to go inside. People could look down, but people could also look up. And up there was a diorama with projections. And yes, very long time ago, but still not seen today. Next, it happened something special. And I have to reinforce now this idea, because we came here to talk about art. So yes, a lot of technology advances, and where were the artists? What were the artists doing? So I did a little selection of the artists directly related to the dome history. So please keep in mind that all the artists you are about to see are directly related to the dome history. Let's start. The first one is a duo of brothers, John and James Whitney, the great grandmasters of abstract cinema. Something very important for you to research abstract cinema and understand what people were doing already more than 70 years ago. This is an original picture of one of the works of the duo, and this is actually the moving image. I let you appreciate it. Next, I am going to show you the experiments that this duo did in the 1941 till 44. These are exercises, film exercises number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1, which I believe it's very beautiful. And somehow this language feels extremely familiar for me. I am a VJ, as you know, and watching these clips for me, it's like watching VJ work. This language is extremely familiar for me. And it was created 70 years ago. Now we are going to listen it with sound. Please enjoy. The grandfathers of abstract cinema. Next, this is film exercise number 4. And altogether it's a beautiful collage of work created more than 70 years ago. But unfortunately, we all know what happened during the 40s, and this is really important for the history of domes and how everything went after the 40s. During the 40s, the construction of the Zaz planetariums came to a halt with the onset of the World War II. And the same people and brains that make the planetarium possible were then forging weapons of destruction for a war of conquest and subjugation. And this is what happened in the 40s. Not good news for the domes. War. But what happened after, it's also important to understand the history. There was something called the space race, a competition where these 3 nations were fighting to see who were the first nation to put a man in space. And somehow, until today, I find it amazing how can the human race got the genius together to get to space. So what happened after, it was really spectacular in the US and the Germany. Throughout the USA, unprecedented federal funding for education dramatically increased the number of planetariums. Lots of planetariums popped like mushrooms all over the USA. And the Zeiss firm was also split in Germany, and parts stayed in East Germany and the other part migrated to West Germany. And why not showing Walt Disney? Walt Disney played and produced the famous Man in Space TV series with a rocket specialist, the same specialist that was one-time Nazi party and preeminent rocket engineer for NASA. They created this Tomorrowland attraction park with domes and all the imagery for the space travel. Even Mickey was into domes. But remember, I did not come here to talk about that. I came here to talk about art. And somehow, I think we are ready to remember that artist we just talked about in the 40s. He was here right in the 50s, creating a new piece. This new piece, it's amazing, and I will show it to you now. It was called Yantra. And the film was entirely produced by hand. Punching holes on a cardboard, animating frame by frame. This looks like generative content. This looks like a dome content. And again, created over 60 years ago. And why am I showing you James Whitney? I could have shown you another ones. The fact is that James has produced a very short and black and white manipulated fragment from an early stage of Yantra, and it was shown at the Vortex concerts. I will now talk about the Vortex concerts that happened in the San Francisco Morrison Planetarium in early 1959, which is a really important moment in history. Jordan Belson was the artist who created the Vortex sessions in San Francisco. Jordan was a filmmaker and artist with abstract films rich and woven with cosmological imagery, exploring consciousness, transcendence, and the nature of light itself. Let's watch some of Jordan content. I think we will enjoy it. Mandala. Jordan was the creator of something called the Vortex concerts with Henry Jacobs. Of course, these were the 50s, and just about the 60s to start, and new planetariums appeared with more accessible cost, and art started to be possible. Again, we are getting there because the art starting to be possible. So next, what happened? It's pretty impressive, and I have evidence. This is an actual image of the content that were played in the dome of the San Francisco Morrison Planetarium. Synthesized films, planetarium machinery, multiple projections of geometrical and polymorphal night phenomenon. All these technology were brought together to show you the Vortex sessions. This is the flyer. This is the actual program. And this is actually something really important that I want to mention so you understand what the planetarium is about. Jet black. Do you know when you turn off the lights of your home, everything is pitch black, total black? You can even go darker than that. So before every vortex session, they placed the audience in total darkness, and just before the session started, they even brought the darkness down. So somehow the darkness and contrast, it's really important to have a quality effect in the world of domes today. And so many years ago, they were mastering that art. This is the DJ and the VJ. That's the DJ, that's the VJ. Planetarium machinery, optomechanical, the flyer of the event, the DJ, Jordan Belson, and these are original images of content played in the dome at the planetarium in San Francisco. And I want to show this image because, again, it's so familiar for me. Somehow, in all the shows of the planetariums all these years that I have performed, this is an extremely familiar image. The DJ, the VJ, all the audience looking up, and somehow it feels like home. So there's no place like a dome. I have some details of what happened in these sessions. They use special effects, film projection, multi-directional sound, use the new medium of magnetic recording tape. This, you might like to research what a magnetic recording tape is. And all this content were piped through 38 speakers. And I have some sound to experience with you. But as you know it, everything comes to an end, and the vortex sessions also ended. But before that, I would like to show you what a magnetic tape is. This is a picture of a magnetic tape where you have the actual heads and the tape itself, the VU meters, and we can listen to more of the content being played back. Of course, we have registrations of the audio, but the video, no video at the time. But we can read some of the details of the program. This agglomeration of 3 individuals' experiments, one single sound source fed into a highly reverberated channel with a high-pass filter and a loop. Words that we use today, loop, reverberating. Abstract music, abstract visuals. And somehow we all know it finished in 1959 because the planetarium management did not appreciate the type of clientele. And believe me, I've been through this many times in the dome world. You want to create some abstract art in someone's planetarium and it's not very welcome. But it's not a problem. There are many of us now, there are a new generation of you coming, and I just want you to keep all these names in some notepad and do your research. And next week you will learn what happened from the 50s to the 90s. I hope you enjoyed. This was it, Dome History, Part 1, from the 20s to the 50s. So I'm just gonna go back to the control room, and I think we are ready to go there in 3, 2, 1. Here we are. So guys, that's it. I hope you have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed a lot to share all this information with you, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.